Strategic thinking on China's second transformation after the Chinese economy took off in the 1990s. It has achieved remarkable achievements that have attracted worldwide attention, especially the unshakable position of the manufacturing industry as the world factory. China's export share in the world is far ahead of any other economy. Among the three major global industrial chains, the one led by China is the most powerful. However, bright data only represents the past and may not necessarily continue into the future. The challenges faced by China are similar to those of Japan and South Korea in the past and present, namely the acceleration of population aging. In 2021, China will enter a deeply aging society and is expected to become a super-aging country by 2030. This may mean that the potential growth rate of our country's economy will decrease as a result. Research has found that Japan's average GDP growth rate during the period from deep aging to super aging was only 1.26%, while Germany's GDP growth rate during the period from deep aging to super aging 1972-2008 was the highest at 5.3%. With 6 years of negative growth and an average annual growth rate of only 2.2%. Since 2012, the working age population in China has decreased by more than 30 million. From 2022 to 2035, the number of retirees will significantly increase. As the population born during the second baby boom reaches the age of 60 and enters the recession period, this can explain why the overall growth rate of China's economy has shown a downward trend in recent years. From the perspective of economic structure, the real estate industry, which once contributed about 25% of the total economic growth, has become weak. The increase in infrastructure investment cannot make up for the negative growth gap in real estate investment. In addition, due to the fact that China's economic growth model is mainly driven by investment and exports, the contribution of the final consumption of the residential sector to GDP is relatively low. Especially in the 3 years following the outbreak of the epidemic, the growth rate of retail sales of consumer goods in society was lower, approaching zero growth in 2022. Therefore, the second transformation of the Chinese economy is urgent and problem-oriented, which is to reduce dependence on real estate and expand consumption. Firstly, it is crucial to adhere to the principle of staying in a house without speculation. According to McKinsey's estimation, China's total social net assets have skyrocketed from approximately $7 trillion in 2000 to $120 trillion in 2020, more than 17 times the total amount of 20 years ago. During the same period, the United States only doubled its growth to $90 trillion. The rapid growth of assets in China is closely related to the large-scale expansion of real estate. By the end of March, China's square meter balance had reached 281 trillion yuan, twice that of the United States, which is also related to the huge scale of real estate. When real estate weakens, the asset shortage at the bank end will be exposed, leading to a significant increase in household savings. In the first quarter of this year alone, household savings increased by nearly 10 trillion yuan. Secondly, the end of the long-term upward phase of the real estate industry means that the transformation of the Chinese economy from investment-oriented to consumption-oriented is imminent. But consumption is a slow variable, which means that transformation is a slow process that requires time and reform. The core is to increase residents' income, especially the income growth of middle and low-income individuals, which needs to be accelerated. Specific suggestions can be found in my previous reports. Only by expanding consumption can we maintain a smooth internal circulation and facilitate the formation of a new development pattern. Thirdly, revitalize state-owned assets and achieve the transformation from land finance to equity finance. The current level of China's macro leverage ratio is already at a relatively high global level. According to statistics from the National Finance and Development Laboratory, it as 263.8% in 2021, close to the average level of developed countries. From the perspective of the leverage ratio of the Chinese government including urban investment bonds, it is around 100%. With central government bonds of 21.4 trillion yuan and local government bonds of 95 trillion yuan, which is not high compared to developed economies such as the United States, 144.5% federal government of California, and Japan's percent 260. But unlike other countries, the proportion of central government bonds in China is extremely low, and the proportion of local government bonds including urban investment bonds is too high, which leads to the full exposure of local government credit risk. According to the central government's requirement of whoever has their child, whoever has it, many local governments clearly have to bear more debt than they can bear, especially when the income from land transfer fees has significantly decreased. The risks are even more exposed. For example, in 2022, there were 13 provinces where land transfer fees had less than 100% coverage of government debt interest, only 5 in 2021, and the deterioration was even more pronounced after deducting urban investment and land acquisition. Since land finance is difficult to sustain, it is necessary to promote state-owned enterprise reform. State-owned enterprises should revitalize their state-owned assets through mergers and acquisitions and increase local fiscal revenue through compliant means such as dividends and holdings reduction. In addition, in order to achieve transformation while maintaining stable growth, it is necessary to increase the scale of central government bonds. The above are suggestions on how to keep the internal and external circulation of the dual circulation unblocked in the economic transformation stage. But if we only reduce the contribution of investment to GDP and increase the contribution of consumption to GDP, it is not a true transformation. We must also strengthen and expand the manufacturing industry, because from the cases of Japan and South Korea, their manufacturing manufacturing industry has significantly declined in competitiveness after the rise of China's manufacturing industry. China's relative advantage lies in the fact that there is currently no newcomer country that poses a manufacturing challenge to China. The backward participation of China's manufacturing industry in the global value chain has always been higher than the forward participation.